welcome to the Arrow After Show right here on thestream.tv. I'm your host, Jamie Philbrook, and we've got a fantastic episode to talk about tonight. But before we do, I want to remind you, we love hearing from you guys. We want to have you commenting on Twitter. You can use hashtag ArrowAS, as well as write some comments on the YouTube page that you're watching this show on, or on our Facebook page. And if we see anything, we will talk about it during the show. If it's anything having to do with our conversation, we'd like to get you involved. But let me introduce my Team Arrow tonight. As always, to my left, Louis Love.
What's up, everyone? And I'm super excited here today because this episode was spectacular.
Ooh, quick arrow shot.
Right between the eyes.
And to my right, Ray Holdridge II.
Right. Hey guys, so glad to be back. Last week I showed up here anyway, though we didn't have a show. I was so excited, and I slept here the whole time. So let's get going, man.
That's a true story. That's a true story, by the way. So we got, as we mentioned, a great episode to talk about tonight. Arrow Season 5, Episode 16, Whoa, Checkmate. Amazing. And we were just actually talking about this, me and Lewis. The Checkmate has a little bit of an Easter egg to it, in the fact that Checkmate is sort of the shield of the DC Comics universe in the comic books. But this has nothing to do with the Checkmate organization. In this episode, I think it's more of a comment to the chess, in the fact that Adrian Chase has Oliver in Checkmate. But we'll get to that in a second. The first thing we want to talk about, episode opens up in a monastery, which is another Easter egg, because Green Arrow fans know in the comic books, monasteries play a big part of the Green Arrow's history. And Green Arrow Oliver has gone to the monastery, fights a couple ninjas, and he says, I'm here to talk to your master. I am a former student. And of course, Talia al Ghul, this is the first time we've seen Talia in the present day. Talia shows up, and what is revealed is that Talia actually trained Prometheus. She then tells Oliver his real name, Adrian Chase. Dun, dun, dun.
Figure.
And then Oliver says, why did you do this? Why did you help him to take out me, your former student? And it's because you killed my father. My last name is Al Ghul. So that's the big reveal to open up the show. Let's start with Louis. What do you think, buddy, about the reveal that Talia al Ghul trained Prometheus, and that she is an Al Ghul, and you killed Raz?
Yeah, and they're kind of like, they have this thing, they're related because they both had their parents die. So they are united through the hate for Oliver.
Adrian and Talia.
Yeah, so they're united, and that's a cool reveal. A little abrupt for me, but it was cool.
Abrupt in what way? What do you mean?
Well, because I thought like Oliver would know she was an Al Ghul because he should investigate his master at one time. I investigated my Kung Fu master.
I did think that I had assumed that she had told him her full name when we first saw her in the flashbacks. So we're gonna have to go DVR this and go back and just check. But it's possible, and you mentioned this earlier, Ray, the fact that we know who Talia is from the comic books, that maybe we just sort of imprinted that, in our minds. But what did you think of the big reveal?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously for those who are familiar with the Talia history and who just that name stands for in the DC universe, it wasn't too much of a surprise. And I agree, it was kind of sudden, where it's like, okay, this is it. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm down. I mean, I'm down with it. But I was curious because I didn't feel there was too much of a hint of a connection between Prometheus and Talia, except for obviously I think the garb that he was wearing was very, it was very League of Assassins. So I think that's a great possibility where it would have made sense. Well, who else is left to train anybody?
Right.
But Talia, who fights in this familiar style, which I know it's a writer's thing. They had to admit, like, hey, you know what? We didn't have Talia a couple years ago when, she wasn't the main daughter.
Right.
So letting that go, I very much appreciated bringing in such a big character now into the main story. And obviously she has a huge influence on what's going to be going on forward. And the fact that she's still holding a grudge against Oliver without her father, and you're right, connects them.
Such hatred, such patient aggression by these guys. They wait it out until the last moment, and then they stab you.
And it festers.
So I thought this was really great. And what I loved about it was, one, the fact that we get a big reveal. I mean, this could have been a cliffhanger end of episode reveal, and we get it pre-credits. So that's cool. 2, I love that we got Talia into the present day. And I think what we really found out in this episode, or where I think it's going to kind of go, is that she's the big bad of season 5, not necessarily Prometheus.
Right.
And we'll get to it a little bit in a little bit, but I think sort of towards the end, we see that she's, Adrian's listening to her. So she's the teacher, he's the student. So I love that. And I also want to say that I do agree with you. I don't think the producers knew 3 years ago when they introduced, 2 years ago when they introduced Roz, that we were going to introduce, and certainly in the flashbacks, introduce her, and when we saw Nyssa, and tie that connection. So in doing it this way and revealing that she never gave her name to Oliver way back when, and so he didn't know, for me, this explains enough. This sort of settles enough of those explanations. Now, I still don't know how Oliver figured out that Talia trained Prometheus for him to go there to the monastery in the first place and say, who is this Prometheus guy? And if that was the case, then why didn't he do this a few episodes ago? But I'll let that pass. And also, I'm wondering if maybe it was explained at some point, either in this episode or last week's episode or another episode, and I just didn't hear it or didn't remember it. That happens sometimes.
And if anybody online remembers this, and we miss, hey, it
yeah,
happens.
if you
We're
remember
human.
it, let us know.
Yes, please let us know. Go ahead and comment. Let us know where it was and what happened. I would like to know.
And I'm going with the fighting style theory. Oliver may have checked out his styles like, that looks a little familiar.
And I'll buy that theory,
right.
But I'm hoping that it was sort of at some point mentioned, maybe even mentions it to Diggle, like, oh, hey, I've seen that style of fighting before. I think, some little Easter egg in there. But if it's not there, I can let it slide.
But there's also guys, there's also psychological warfare. Who else but the League knows how to beat you up physically
that's a good point, too.
and mentally?
And clearly, Prometheus, Adrian, has learned from Talia.
Right.
And what we really learned in this scene, which was so cool, is that this is Talia enacting her revenge on Oliver just as much as he is. So next thing, we get back to, we're in present day, we get back to Star City, and then what proceeds is really, when we know from last week that Adrian has Susan, he kidnapped her, and he's kind of holding her against Oliver, and what kind of continues is this real nice cat and mouse game between Adrian and Oliver. And now everyone on Team Arrow knows that Adrian's Prometheus, and Adrian knows that all of them know that he's Prometheus. So you get these really cool scenes where Adrian is basically like flaunting it in front of Wild Dog and Lance at like the mayor's office. Like, it's some pretty cool stuff. Ray, we'll start with you. What'd you think about the cat and mouse game?
No, I just love the attitude and arrogance that's going on between this battle of wills. I mean, essentially, it's weird. It feels very much like they're the same type of character. And they're going no hold barred. You know what? Hey, if everybody knows, let's just play with it.
Yeah.
And to watch our heroes realize that they can't do right there. I can choke you out, but I can't.
Right.
I can't do anything about it. I think it's great to see that struggle with all of the characters
and great job
the arrogance of Adrian.
Great job from the actors on that one, because I thought Paul Blackstone, who plays Quentin, I mean, you could really feel that, like, and Renee, Wild Dog as well.
It's genius because you know what, guys? This is Green Arrow, and this is Prometheus.
Yeah, that's
He's just taunting him.
essentially it.
Oliver sits by me.
Yeah. No.
And I love that he sticks toe to toe. He's toe to toe with Oliver. He's taunting the entire group, and he reminds me of the Joker in The Dark Knight.
You're right. And those mind games he's playing with Oliver, I think, are starting to take a toll on Oliver. We see Oliver sort of bash up the Arrow Cave, and he needs sort of a sit-down talk from Diggle. But what'd you?
No, I like that he's getting pushed to that point. I mean, you see too, realizing Oliver's like, okay, he can't. This isn't something he can deal with on his own. It's acknowledged that. So he keeps everybody in the loop, and he's trying to figure out a way that he can go after Adrian, both in the light, as Oliver Queen, as much as the Arrow in the dark. Because right now the Arrow's still on. People are looking for him.
Right.
He called himself out essentially in the episode previous. So.
Right.
He's even now a little more limited what he can do as the Arrow. So what can he do against a guy who seems to be multiple steps ahead of him?
Right.
But try to include, hopefully, X factors. I think he tries to do that when he reaches out to Pike.
Right. So we should mention that actually Felicity finds out that Adrian's real name is Simon Morrison. And since they don't have anything tying him to being Prometheus, the plan is we're going to kind of Al Capone him in the sense that if we, we do have proof that he's not actually Adrian Chase, the district attorney, so at least he can be arrested for, I don't know, acting like a district attorney when he's not.
Let's say falsifying records.
Right, or whatever it might be. So Oliver, as the mayor, takes this information to Pike, and Pike is basically like, he reluctantly sort of says, I'll follow this up. And then, of course, what happens, as soon as Pike leaves his office, Prometheus just walks right up to him and stabs him. And so we think that he's probably dying. And in the hospital where Oliver goes to see Pike, Adrian's there, and he's ready to taunt him, and he's ready to,
It's a mind game.
Mind game.
And he's there. How did he? I mean, you're thinking, what a jerk. He's right there in front of the guy he stabbed, and he's breaking Oliver. He's making Oliver lose it in front of Pike, and kudos to the actors.
Well, I know, and I think the actor playing Adrian is just fantastic. But Adrian says, to Oliver, you don't even know what game we're playing. So how are you going to beat me? Because you don't even know what we're doing here. And I thought that was, that's a good villain line.
Yeah,
that's a good villain line.
No, and you know what? Even as a viewer, I've been thinking the same thing. Like, what the heck is Prometheus trying to do?
What's the end game?
Yeah,
to what
like,
end?
because he's constantly says, I'm not going to kill you. I'm not here to kill you. Okay, are you here to just ruin the dude's life? Like, all right, I kind of get that. We've seen some of that before. But then he says things like, I'm trying to make you who you should be type of deal. And like, what does that mean? And all of his actions even leading up to this point, at one point he protects Oliver. And when he goes up against Vigilante. And takes that away. So there's obviously a specific plan that's going on. I think it's fascinating that even as a viewer, I can't quite figure out what that is. And as much as it's frustrating to me, to Oliver's character, that character, it must be even more frustrating as he wrecks his own pad, and watching that everything he does just can't get him a leg up.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. And then it's actually also interesting because Oliver, or the Green Arrow, and Diggle go to Chase's house and confront his wife and explains to him, your husband is the star throwing killer and he's Prometheus and we need you. And she, of course, doesn't believe him. And Adrian, anticipating that maneuver, has already called the police to say, I know where the arrow is, he's attacking my wife. And then what happens is Mayor Oliver Queen has to basically give a press conference with Adrian, with them both knowing who the other is. And he says, if the Green Arrow doesn't pull,
doesn't turn himself
into the police in 24 hours, we're going to go after him. And, that's a really interesting scene.
And that's when we thought maybe they're going to say that the Green Arrow is Prometheus. Would that be a possibility?
Yeah,
we kind of thought of that.
Yeah, well, that's actually a good point. Yeah, because they don't know. Right, maybe they're both the same hooded guy.
So Andrew Carabantia says that Oliver previously fought Prometheus, and Prometheus used some move on him, and he said something to the effect of, "This is the type of move Talia taught me."
Oh, it was in this. So I guessed in a previous episode. And that was in a previous episode.
That was a previous episode.
Who was that?
Andrew.
Andrew, thank you,
Andrew.
Thank you so much.
I don't know how I feel about making love correct on this, because now we know he was right, that it was a fighting style that hinted to it.
Yeah.
I don't know how I personally feel about it.
I think that makes sense. I'm good with that.
Yeah, and if you guys thought my head was big now, wait till you watch the next episode.
You unleashed a monster.
So let's get to kind of the end of what happens here. So, Susan's captured. We find out where Susan is, where Prometheus has her, Adrian has her, and Team Arrow go in. Adrian sets some traps, some bombs, but Oliver actually has a trick up his sleeve. He had Diggle on a special mission, go get Adrian's wife. And he brings Adrian's wife to actually see that Adrian is Prometheus. And now Adrian's wife is able to say to Adrian, stop this, I don't know what you're doing, you need to turn yourself in. Boom, boom, boom. They embrace. Adrian, cold-blooded, knifes her right in the stomach.
Shank.
Killing his own wife. That's shocking, even for this show. What do you think?
I think Oliver kind of screwed up there because
I don't know how he could have seen that coming.
Well,
right?
but
And what other
he's a
choice did he
league. He's
have
a
to
league.
do
He
that?
should know how the league acts. I mean, these are that's where he came from,
point.
and you know, they don't care. These guys don't care. They'll kill themselves. They don't for their mission. So they're suicide guys.
Were you surprised, Ray?
I was surprised. What I wasn't surprised of was the dark turn as this season has continuously been.
Right.
It's just another example, I think, of the writers saying, you know, let's keep Arrow the darker version of the CW shows. And yeah, I mean, the fact that I love the way it happened because as we were watching, it was like, oh, she's gonna die.
Yeah.
And then there was a point where like, oh, well, maybe she isn't because he seems to really be crushed by this. Like Adrian doesn't, you know, okay, this is unfortunate. He regrets this. Nope, super quick shank.
No, and we were on the edge of our seats.
We
like,
really
what's
were.
Gonna happen?
It was such a good scene, and the build up into that too was like Oliver was shocked. Everyone was shocked. Like, oh, this is bad. Oh, this is not what we were expecting. And of course, the ensuing fight scene afterwards was so good.
There's a fight scene that ended up happening between Prometheus or Adrian, and it actually is cool because Adrian takes off the Prometheus mask. He's like, we know who each other is now. Now let's just face to face. And they have an incredible fight scene. Dare I say, one of the best hand-to-hand combat fight scenes this season?
I dare say the best hand-to-hand combat we've seen on the CW.
Ever.
The rolling punches got me.
Yeah.
There was a point where Prometheus was on the floor, and I think Oliver at this point, he knows he's losing the psychological warfare.
He's absolutely losing the psychological
warfare.
warfare.
And he has Prometheus down, and he's throwing a rolling punch that, just like that.
Yeah, that was cool.
And that was amazing, and that wasn't it. It doesn't cut. The fight keeps going for a good couple minutes, but in TV land, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And it was like toe-to-toe. It was badass.
Well, I think it was just another great example of them kicking it up a notch with their fight scenes. I mean, one of the best things about real fight scenes when they actually show you all the action, what's going on. Even with, you know, stunt fighters and stuff like that, as long as I can see everything that's going on, I'm going to enjoy this fight. And this is just another example of them producing a really great, strong, emotional fight scene, too. It's like you really felt like, dang it, Oliver is at the edge of his ropes trying to end this now, and the fact that there's not many cuts has you really appreciate the work that these guys are putting in with the rolling punches and all the choreography that's going into this. It was vicious, it was a tough fight, and I very much enjoyed watching the whole thing. And of course, the ending is as a little anticlimactic at first.
So,
like,
they're fighting and fighting. It looks like Oliver's got him, and then he gets shot in the leg, taken out by Talia from behind. Yeah.
Arrow to the back of the knee.
And this is where we really see that Talia and Prometheus are working together for the same goal, where I think all season we've thought that it was just whoever this Prometheus character is. And I really like where we're coming with this now. Like, we understand why Talia has a vendetta. Like, we've seen why she should have a vendetta. We get all of that. So sort of introducing her in the flashbacks this season, and then having this, and I think we all kind of were either guessing or at least hoping that she would be in the present day.
Yeah.
And tying that in and really having her be the big bad as opposed to Adrian, who's also been great, and that sort of vigilante Prometheus fake out was great. I mean, they really upped the ante with the villains this year on Arrow, and I think that's been so important to the success and sort of the comeback success of the show this season.
So there's a comment that Chris Kinde is saying that he didn't like the way Arrow got taken down with an arrow. But I think, do you feel like there was some sort of poisoning going around there? Because he kind of, the way...
And he came up kind of foggy when it's revealed that they actually kidnap him and he's locked up, Oliver's locked up in, I don't know, wherever Talia and Prometheus have their little, headquarters. And basically Adrian says to Oliver, you helped me discover who I really am. I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to help you discover who you really are, which is very ominous, an ominous thing to say.
Yeah, no, I thought, and I mentioned that before, you know, it was a little anticlimactic from such a great fight scene, and it ends on that. But if it were to say it's a poison arrow or there's some sort of paralyzing serum to it, that would make sense, because when he does get hit, we don't really see him put much of a fight. I mean, yes, he's going up against two very highly skilled opponents, but even so, this is the Arrow, this is Oliver Queen. I have to think that unless there was some sort of toxin involved, he would have put him more of a fight.
I agree, and I probably think that that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
But I'll actually, with this one, I don't need to be told.
Yeah.
True,
You know what
exactly.
I mean?
yeah.
I don't want
You
to
don't
be
need-
told, and thank you that we figured that out. But with this one, yeah, I'll just buy that
You
he
go
was
into it.
crippled. Yeah, he was.
I mean,
he
this
was
is
crippled by
Talia, we're crying out loud. You know, we're talking about the League of Assassins and one of the top two in it, so totally easy to believe in. But what I'm hearing, what we were talked about in terms of the villains, the fact that Prometheus has been such a great Arrow villain, and one that's kind of been in and out of the shadows. There was a good point, a few episodes there, where Prometheus kind of wasn't being talked about. You know,
Right,
we were
right.
dealing with some other things in the
Dealing
Arrowverse,
with Vigilante
the
and-
Vigilante,
yeah.
and even the runaway to Russia and stuff. And then all of a sudden, Prometheus, he's so impactful every time he shows up, but now we're kicking up another notch with Talia. In my mind, what are they going to do with that? Because Talia is the master, essentially. So if the student is doing this much to the main hero, what the heck is Talia going to bring to the table? And that's awesome.
Now,
I
here's
can't wait to
another
see
question
that.
I just thought of: is do we know who the current Ra's al Ghul is? Because it was Merlin at one point, but then. If you
That's
know who
true.
the current Ra's al Ghul is, please let us know.
Can it be Talia?
Could it be?
Yeah.
It could. I don't know.
She's the master.
You would think. I
You
don't
know,
know.
that's actually a really good question. I
And
think
I'm
it would
not
make
sure.
sense
I
now.
can't remember.
I think it would make sense, though, that
That
Talia would
she's
be
the Ra's now. I
essentially the
agree.
next Ra's. I mean, for whatever reason, there may have been, hey, with considering the history between Talia and her father, they haven't always gotten along. That's been well documented in the DC universe. I would think it's very possible that she was cast out. And then now, even though now that her family is essentially gone, you know,
and then
taken
she
out,
came and claimed
and
the
she comes
demon's
back
head.
and
What was
claims
rightfully
the demon
her.
head.
Ooh,
Exactly.
I like that, Ray. I
so
like that.
she has now complete control on that. Why not? You know, I think that would be a very cool way to go about
Can
it.
Adrian be Ra's al Ghul? Prometheus.
Yes, but I don't think he is because of the way he's taking orders from
True.
Talia.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I
But,
know where you're going.
but no, I think that's something that should be talked. Is like that's right. The League of Assassins could still very much be a thing. I think the existence of Talia shows that. The fact that she has other warriors under
that
her
she's
command.
training. Yep.
So she might be looking to rebuild it. I mean, it's something that has to exist. We've talked about forever. It's such a mainstay in this universe. I would be surprised if something like that didn't happen. But now I'm excited. Like I think about that. That would really pick
be
this
cool.
up.
Well, we'll
yeah.
have to wait and see. There's two more points we want to talk about before we run out of time. Two subplots of this evening. That was the basic crust of the episode. But the subplot is Felicity. She really starts to get in over her head with Helix. She goes and is actually introduced. The girl who's Elena, I think it is. Elena, yeah. Introduces her kind of to the Helix headquarters. And basically, she needs help from them to find out where Susan is and to find out, now find out where Oliver is being kept. And now what she finds out is, we helped you rescue John Diggle. We'll help you find Susan. We'll help you find Oliver. But you owe us for each one of these things.
Right.
And she had to break into Homeland Security. And, Curtis finds out about this, not so happy with her. Oliver knows something's going on with her and says something and basically be careful. But she basically says, I don't have time to tell you what's going on right now. So we'll leave that till next time. But what do you think about Felicity going down to the dark side?
Well, basically, Elena, she's a drug pusher. The first one's free.
Yes.
The next one's a little. Now you're gonna have to pay me.
Yes.
And now you're gonna have to do bad things for me.
Yep.
And pretty soon you're gonna be walking the boulevard.
What did you think? Well, I mean, are you concerned about Felicity? Where do you think the storyline's going?
I find, again, this is one of those, it's become now a little bit of a quiet storyline in terms of what's going on right now and exploding with Prometheus and Talia. And this is actually the part that I'm watching with most interest because I think it's going to, we talked a little bit about it before, that it's really going to spread into next season, or at least the latter parts of this season, where Felicity's going to go with her path. She's been going down a darker path, more of, hey, the end justifies the means sort of thing. But now with her getting deeper and deeper in bed with Helix, it puts her at a disadvantage, I feel like. It puts her in an awkward position. She wants to help. She wants to do what's right. but in that rush of saving the day, like she doesn't want another tragedy to happen, like what happened with the nuclear explosion.
Last season.
She, in that rush, in that tunnel vision, she doesn't see what she's getting herself into. And that's fascinating, I think, especially in a storytelling aspect, because there's going to come a point, I feel like, where she has to choose. And she may have to choose to, I think, follow with Helix and get so far where she might have to leave the Arrow.
Right, I think this so far has been a good plot device for the writers, because now she's got this group, so anytime she needs to find something, we got a little into that. But I agree with you. I think that this is leaving an area where it can kind of go. This is something that they can kind of let be for a while and then pick up later. And I think there are threads of it we'll see next season.
Well, it's like what you said earlier about Prometheus being like he disappears for a while during the season, and then there's other plots going on. I think Helix is going to be one of the main villains. It's going to be all-out war between Oliver's team. Because they're going to say, we don't want to pay for your drugs anymore. No more of this. We're not going to do this and that.
I think it's going to be cliffhanger. I agree with you, but I think that's more like cliffhanger or like starting that for next season. And maybe we'll find out that the leader of Helix is, like a comic book villain that we know or something. You know what I mean? I think the next 5 or 6 episodes, the rest of the season is finishing off Prometheus and dealing with Talia al Ghul, but I do think that that's leading to something.
That's why I think this season is so much fun to watch for me personally right now, is because there's so much going on, but there's so much also going on in the background that I also want to know about. I want to know what else is going on with Felicity, and I want to know what's going on with Mr. Terrific and his new skills and where he's fitting in with the group, with everybody. We've had, while yes, we've been having this main big major storyline, I think the subplots have been really, really good this season.
Absolutely, and another subplot, as we always know, flashback.
Yes.
So back in Russia, and I know I was saying Bratva wrong. Bratva for our friends on YouTube. So we continue the Bratva scene that we left off at, the shootout in the bar. Gregor and his guys escape, and Oliver and Anatoly realize that if they don't kill Gregor, he's going to tell the Bratva about what they're up to, and they'll take them out. So we have this really cool shootout scene in a hockey rink. Oliver puts on the season 1 Arrow costume, shows Anatoly. We get some really funny Anatoly lines. Anatoly says, "Why you dressed like Robin Hood?" And then there's my favorite one. My favorite one was when Arrow's talking to Anatoly with the Arrow voice, and Anatoly says, "What is thing that you're doing with voice?" So very hilarious, and then a really great shootout scene, and basically it ends with Oliver, I guess he puts an arrow in Gregor. We don't quite know if Gregor is alive or dead at that point, but what did you think of the shootout and Anatoly's funny comments?
The shootout, I've never seen a shootout in a hockey ring before. I think that's a first.
I agree. It was awesome.
Damn cool.
And Oliver does like a slide on the ice and then does a bow, and I mean, it's cool. It's super cool.
And anything Anatoly says is funny, so I'm good. With that accent?
What did you think of our Bratva flashback?
Of the Bratva flashback. I enjoy Bratva. What I enjoy are those two characters together. I think, honestly, the flashbacks of that one has been a little slow this season, but I very much love watching the relationships, and I think it's completely fair and great for the writers to poke a little fun at themselves in the show, because
which was totally being done in those scenes.
And how many times we've joked, with the Oliver Queen, the Arrow's like, oh, it's so hard.
Yeah, I know.
Being Arrow and Oliver. And if you can't poke fun at something like that, then you're not really loving what you're doing. I think that's why we can joke about it. We love this show, and it's great to see it happen in the show.
Yeah, and I really like the flashbacks this season. I mean, we were talking about the flashbacks before, and I think that they lost their way somewhere in the series. And I feel like they found their way again this season. The flashbacks always this season have been a little bit more like they have something to do with what's happening in the present day, where I think there wasn't as much of that, especially on the island last season. So I'm really glad, the idea of the show was always a 5-year show, and that the flashbacks would end at the end of 5 years, which we will see the end of the flashbacks this season. But as far as the Russian stuff they've been doing, I mean, Anatoly is one of my favorite characters, and I think he's gotten a lot more to do this season and really become more of a major character in the Arrow lore. So I think it's been great. I think it's been great. And I really have enjoyed the Russian stuff. But unfortunately, boys,
I know.
Are you speeding up
It's
time
already?
or something?
I'm like the Flash.
Already.
I'm going to be trapped in the speed zone before we do the Speed Force zone before we know it. That is all the time that we have, unfortunately, this week for Arrow After Show here on the Stream.tv. But before we go, I want to thank Louis Love.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I already said that. What the hell? Am I doing? The episode was so awesome that I don't even know what time it is. But you can check me out on Twitter at MeetTheFridge, and next week I'll be back with the Arrow Show.
We can't wait to have you, and Ray Holdridge.
True, can't wait for you, buddy. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in again tonight. You can catch me on Twitter at RayDallas67 on Twitter, and then, of course, Ray Holdridge on Instagram. Guys, great show tonight. So much to talk about. No wonder it flew by fast.
It was so much fun, and we want to thank you so much for tuning in. And remember to check out our Facebook pages. You can check us out at DC TV Universe Crew on Facebook, as well as the Arrow Cave discussion group. We want to thank our good friend Lance Osfresser, who helps us with those Facebook pages. He's the best.
Thanks, Lance.
And thank you for checking those out. And until next week, I'm Jamie Philbrick for the Stream.tv. We'll see you next week on Arrow After Show. Thank you.
Adios.